What's going on, everybody? This is Daryl Andrews, Coach D, and from you to you here from an unusual location in one of the rooms in our home. We are having our home fully renovated, and I mean, literally every room is being demolished and redone, and we have one of those smart homes. It's going to be pretty interesting when we're done. But right now, we're in the middle of it, and there's work being done as I speak. And so I had to find a quiet place. So I just picked one of the rooms, and here we are. And so if my daughter's watching, I am in your room, but you're in college, so I'm okay. I can take your room to do this session that I want to share. And I just couldn't end the day. I've been a full day of nonstop virtual trainings and virtual coaching, and it's just amazing to see the evolution of our work from a live platform to a virtual one, and the number of people we are impacting has significantly increased. So I'm finding that my days are a little bit more tied up in, meetings and Zoom trainings and StreamYards like we're using here, and a variety of different things. But I couldn't let this day go by because yesterday I didn't have the time because I was with my daughter in Washington to just give a perspective, and this is what this is, a perspective on what took place yesterday. Now, many of you know out there, my good friends and friends who just know me through LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live and all of that, I do a lot of work in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion these days. And, that's been a significant amount of good work that's taken place with various organizations throughout the country and businesses. So we're proud of that work. But yesterday, to me, was one of those what we call defining moments in history. And let me explain why. Because, ever since all of this happened last year, you and I know that a lot of people have been trying to figure a lot of things out. I know I personally have had quite a few friends, Caucasian friends, who didn't fully understand what was going on and the nature of everything. And why is this such an uproar? And why are people saying the things that they're saying, including yours truly? Why am I saying what I'm saying? And what I'm going to do is instead of trying to paint a picture as far as these several things we need to know, I'm going to share a few stories. And it's my hope that these stories will help you understand why so many people yesterday were crying like myself, were celebrating like myself, and who said, finally, justice is done. Now, I know there's people out there that watch these messages that say, I don't like to hear this stuff, and that's cool. That's fine, because we live in a free nation. It's a democratic nation, to each his own. But then there's a lot of people out there that care, and I know that to be true as well. A lot of people feel a certain way because they just lack knowledge. They don't know any better. When you've been taught a certain thing a certain way for so long, you don't know any better. You only do what you know to do, because that's all you've ever done. And so I'm going to try to, instead of coming right out and doing what a lot of other folks did, give their commentary about this, I'm going to share some stories so you can understand why I was in tears. Story number one. When I was in college, I went to an HBCU, Cheyney University. And I was a first generation college student, which means in my family, as far as I can remember, I was the first one to go off to a 4-year college, the first one. And I was proud of that. I was proud of going to an HBCU. I started at Wagner College in Staten Island, New York, but I ended up transferring to Cheyney University. And so I was proud of being a college student. I believed that was going to be a door opener for me. I played college football at Cheyney. We didn't win many games, but we had a lot of fun playing. my Cheyney brothers, Wolfpack, we're good, man, but we didn't win many games. But I had a great college experience, athletically and, academically. It was a good experience. But one year, I think it was my sophomore or junior year, I went to a bank in a little town called Media, Pennsylvania. And back then, I'm giving my age away, you didn't have all the technology you had. So you would go into the bank and withdraw money if you needed money. And believe me, I didn't have much money in there. I was a college student. I didn't have much anything in there. And so I just wanted to get a few dollars out the bank to because you always had a banking account. We were taught from a younger age, you got to have a bank account. It's just the way it was, And so we were taught, so I always had a bank account. And so I would put my money in there. Didn't have much money. So I put my money in there, and I went out to take a few dollars out to get something to eat, I believe. And while I was in line, I looked out the bank window and I noticed all these police cars. It was police car after police car after police car pulling up to the bank. And I'll be honest with you, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, the bank is being robbed. Okay, it's being robbed. And so, I'm like, man, the bank is being robbed. I was excited to see the police because guess what I was thinking? They're going to come in there and stop these bank robbers. That's what I'm thinking. I'm a college student, first generation, first person to step on the college campus for a 4-year degree. And so I'm in here, going to the bank. And when they walked in the door, I was smiling. I said, yeah, man, get that dude, whoever he is. And ladies and gentlemen, they run to me. They grab me, yank me out of line, handcuff me, and slam my face up against the wall. There had to be at least 6 police officers. And there were another 3 or 4 sitting outside, waiting, like looking around the facility. Now, let's put this in perspective. I went to the bank to get a few dollars out to get something to eat because I was a hungry college student. And within a few moments, I am handcuffed, face slammed up against the wall. Back then, they used to carry those sticks, stick in my back. I turned to ask the officer, why are you doing this? He took the stick, put it in my face and said, shut up. I'm not making this up, my friends. This is not being made up. I'm telling you a true story. And I got another one. This is me. I'm not talking about somebody else. And listen, I'm telling you that so you can understand why so many people were in tears yesterday. And to understand my story is not unique. There's a lot of us that have had to deal with this over and over and over and over again. And until a person can understand what people have been going through, it's hard to understand this stuff if you've never experienced it. And so here I am in this line, handcuffed, face against the wall, and I'm trying to figure out why in the world are they doing this? And a few moments later, the chief of police walks in. And I said, oh my God, whatever they think I did that I didn't do, that's the chief of police. I'm in trouble. And so I'm cuffed. I got all these people looking at me. I'm not, I'm just not doing anything. I was just there. And he goes back into the back with the bank manager. And then he come back out and the police chief tells him 10 minutes later, uncuff him. And I said, I'm sitting there, so they uncuff me. My hands are, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There it is. Eva, there you go. Yep. And so I'm uncuffing my hands and they're red and they all start to leave. And I said to the one officer, what was that all about? He turns around, puts the stick in my face again and says, shut the F up. Now keep in mind, this was a long time ago. It's before all the rights we have today. Why am I saying all this? I went to the bank manager and I said, man, what was that all about? People looking at me thinking I'm a criminal. I'm a first generation college student. And she said, sorry, Mr. Case of mistaken identity. Now, imagine I'm a young kid trying to do what's right, trying to stay out of trouble, trying to get an education, trying to make the right choices, staying away from crime, staying away from everything else. And I was about to go to jail. What am I saying? It's not about coach. I just want you to, I want you to hear this, because what we have experienced is something that is like, thank you, Sabrina. A lot of people will find this so hard to believe, but it happens. Sabrina, thank you for sharing that. It happens. I'm minding my business. I'm trying to get a college degree. I'm trying to position myself for a better future. I'm thinking I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good man. I want to make good choices. So I'm in college and that's what I'm going to do. And they have me cuffed up and slammed up against the wall. If it wasn't for, I'll say this, I wasn't a Christian back then, but boy, I had to be the grace of God. I may have gotten many years because the lady told me there was somebody that robbed that bank 3 weeks ago and they thought it was me. And I was coming back to do it again. Unbelievable. That's story number one. That's why I was crying yesterday, because I've been there. I get it. Story number two, I was coming home from work one day. I was probably 33, 34 years old, had a great job and, you know, worked hard and making my living, paying my taxes and doing all of that. And, I'm going home from work. And so as I get ready to go into the door before my apartment, the door, the hall door and all that, you got to go out from the outside going in. I'm going over to grab the door. And when I go to grab the door, a bunch of cops pulled in again. It happened again. That's right, Eva. It happens. People have no idea. And this time it was ugly because there was about 10 cops. They got out that car and pointed guns at me and said, "Get on your knees." I'm like, for what? Did I do something that worked that I don't know about? Huh? Get on your knees. And they're pointing right at me. If it wasn't for one person, one black officer, I'm telling you, I always believe God has always been with me, man, because I'm telling you the stuff. I know there's a lot of people who weren't as blessed as I was that are sitting up in prisons for mistaken identity. Second person, I knew this guy, his name was Fred. I said, "Fred, this is Daryl," because I had a part-time job at QVC in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Fred worked there during the night shift, and so did I. He was a cop during the day, and he worked security at night for QVC. And I said, "Fred, it's Daryl." He cocks the gun back, and the other guys cocked the guns back because they're police officers. He was just doing what they were doing. And he said, "Man, that's the wrong guy." This is why when you see people crying, because my story is one of millions of stories, hundreds of thousands of stories of people who have been accosted, handcuffed. I got more. If I tell you more, you're going to think I'm making this stuff up. I mean, just outright, totally humiliated for no logical reason. Now, I want to say something that's going to probably be controversial because I know a lot of folks out there in a heated state right now. I don't judge every single police officer by the actions of those folks, but people begin to believe that even if a person is not like that, they have the potential to be. And so what happens? We get nervous. We tell our kids, if somebody pulls you over, you put your hands up on the steering wheel, or keep the registration and all that up high so you can grab it instead of reaching down for it. Now we are full of fear. And we got to pass that on to our kids because now we're scared because we don't want our kids to end up like Breonna Taylor. We don't want our kids to end up like George Floyd. We don't want our kids to end up like Botham. We just don't want it. So what happens is people get nervous. That's why we were celebrating yesterday, because for the first time in history that we know of, a cop was actually convicted for killing a black person. That situation was totally different than many of the other ones. That was a murder. The guy's knee was in this man's neck. It was a murder. That little baby don't have a daddy anymore. And so as a person who spends a lot of time in the DEI space and trying to educate people, I'm not saying this to offend anyone. I'm just trying to educate. I want you to understand, unless you have been in these situations, it is very difficult for you to understand. It's very difficult. It's like, I mean, last year when this all happened, I'll be honest with you. I'm not trying to talk about anybody I know, but a lot of my Caucasian friends, their children were calling me, emailing me, because their mom and dad didn't know what to say to them or didn't want to talk to them about it. So they were reaching out to me and asking me, "Mr. Andrews, what's going on? What's this?" And I said, the sad reality is you've never been educated on this. That's why you're calling me, because nobody took the time to tell you that this was wrong. What's going on is wrong, and what the way they do it wrong. And so what happens is there's a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding. So when you see people responding, all you see is the response. You don't see the pain before the response. Before that thing happened with George Floyd, everybody was minding their business, going to work, eating breakfast, dinner, going home to their families. And that became the tipping point. People said, "I can't take this no more." You know what I mean? We're done with this. This has got to end. We're tax-paying citizens. We contribute to society. We do all these different things, and then the reality is we can walk out our door and be murdered. Who wants? Imagine. All right, let's paint a picture. Imagine if you're Caucasian. It's not trying to say all Caucasians are like this, because I got some of the best Caucasian friends in the world. But what I want to say is this. If you're one that's on the fence with all of this, imagine sending your child out there wondering if they're going to get shot, wondering if they're going to get pulled over. If you can't see it from somebody else's eyes, think about your eyes. See it from theirs. Like, how would you feel as a mother or a father if you got that phone call that Miss Taylor got or Miss Floyd got? You see what I'm saying? What in the world? How would you? Hey, Michael, how you doing, young man? How would you feel? And that's what I want us to understand, because my thing is, I've always said, I've been saying this for a long time, and we've actually, this is some of the work we were doing. This is a heart issue. It's a heart issue. And some people can love certain things, love certain scenarios, cry about certain things, and despise other people, despise people. I never can understand that. I can't understand it. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about like even in the church, a lot of Christians, people say they love the Lord, but man, that part right there, I ain't got no time for that one. It's almost like you're not God's people. God don't love you either. And I'm like, no, man, where do you get this stuff from? You see, where does this come from? You know, what Bible are you reading? We reading the same Bible? I think my Bible says, love thy neighbor as thyself. If I'm your neighbor, then I'm like, you love me. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know, man. I know, Michael. I know who you are. And so the point I'm making is simply this, because I don't want to think I'm on a rant. What happened yesterday, all right, was a moment. It's not like we're celebrating like you won the Super Bowl. You know, it's not like we're celebrating like you won the Super Bowl. We're celebrating because for the first time, all right, and people will say, well, you know, the old OJ case. Well, OJ was a celebrity. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this is an average, everyday dude like most of us, okay, who literally, he didn't have the funds, the millions of dollars to spend. Like his family didn't have the millions to spend like OJ did. And he was, this officer was convicted on all 3 counts. All right. So what am I saying? People did this because of what I just shared. I just shared my story of 2 scenarios that a tax-paying, honest, I pride myself on integrity. I pride myself on doing what's right, serve it. Anybody out there that knows me, I know I serve, man. I've sowed seeds personally. I donate time. I volunteer all the time to help with this organization, that organization. I don't ever ask for anything in advance because I feel as though that's my duty. Okay. But you can be as clean as you want. You can be as full of integrity as you want. If a person doesn't see you as that, they'll see you for what they want to see you as. And they'll treat you accordingly to what they feel about you. They don't know nothing about your integrity. They don't know nothing about your character. And that's why this has got to end. Now, I know I'm not naive. I know in this country, we still got a lot of work to do. We're nowhere near the finish line. But I hope yesterday was the beginning of an opportunity for people to at least start opening their eyes, you see, and start realizing, let's do what Dr. King said. He begged us. Let's not judge a person by the content, color of their skin, but the content of their character. Let's look at people for who they are, and let's interact with them in that. But let me tell you this: I got to get ready to go. But I got a chance. I'm on the Clarence B. Jones Social Advocacy Board. There's an organization that was started some time ago. And Valerie, if you're out there, we got to reconnect about this. But Valerie Still, who former NBA player, one of the early stage great players, started this organization to work with Clarence B. Jones, who was Dr. Martin Luther King's right-hand man almost, and he wrote the I Have a Dream speech. Literally wrote it and been supportive of Martin Luther King. I mean, this guy, and he's 90 years old. We just celebrated his 90th birthday. It was beautiful. At a celebration, they had, Andrew Young was there, and oh my goodness, all of Harry Belafonte and the Hamilton people were there, and it was all virtual. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And Andrew Young said something I want us all to get before we go. I go right here. This is what he said. One thing that Martin used to say to us every day, listen to this, is show them radical love. Now, can you imagine? Could you imagine people hosing you, people sicking dogs on you? Show them radical love. You know what? It's time for other people to show that same radical love. If you gonna say you love people, if you gonna say you care for people, if you're gonna say you got to put people in the mix, you can't just say I'm gonna care for that group of people over there. You see, like for me, it don't matter. I mean, I'm strongly gonna stand for my because I'm African American. I gotta stand for my race. It's just what it is because we've been through so much. If I tell you stories of my ancestors, you wouldn't believe some of those stories. But I care about all people, man. I got young white kids that I'm mentoring and young Asian kids that I'm mentoring. You know, we helping us so. I remember we ran our program here in Delaware. There was a young Asian man that we worked with that went on and did some amazing things with his life. His name was Jimmy Lee. And it didn't matter to me, young man. So I care about everybody. And there's a lot of us out there that cares about everybody. We need more people like that. We got to stop this looking at a person's skin color stuff. If we're going to ever get to the point in this country, which we're going to call this quote unquote great country, where we're going to start seeing what we can really be. I just imagine, let me tell you something. Let me say this. Oh, I'm getting in trouble right now, but I got to say it anyway. In my trainings, I do this thing where I talk about equity. And I show the power of equity. Listen to this, because some of y'all will be able to relate to this and some of y'all won't. But I want you to get this. So let's go back to the 40s, 50s. There was this basketball team called the Minneapolis Lakers that won the championship. Come on, Mark, no favoritism. That's right. And so they won, but it was all Caucasian guys, high shorts, Converse sneakers. Couldn't, sorry guys, white boys can't jump. So, layups and all that kind of stuff. I'm just kidding, guys. Don't get offended. I'm just playing. All right. I'm sure there's plenty of white guys that can jump. That's an old movie. For some of you know what I'm talking about. And so they were out there shooting their little set shots and scoring, and the team owners weren't making much money. They had to always borrow funds just to get from one town to the next. We were playing in high school arenas. That was in the 40s and 50s. Then equity kicked in. And they started letting people like Bill Russell get up in there. And Will Chamberlain get up in there. And Elgin Baylor get up in there. And the game took on a whole nother meaning then. Then all of a sudden, it went from a little set shots to jumping halfway across the gym and dunking and all these other things. And people are like, whoa, look at this game now. And then you pushed into the 60s and they started letting Lou Alcindor up in there. They start letting, Will Chamberlain up in there. And then, oh boy, it went to a whole nother level. And then you went into the 70s and they started letting a whole bunch of other people up in there. JoJo White and all these other people got up in. Walt Clyde Frazier and Willis Reed and then woohoo. But today, those high school gyms, they ain't playing in them no more. They're playing in billion-dollar stadiums. They're playing in multi-million-dollar facilities. There's billions of dollars in economic revenue from sports paraphernalia and gyms. Oh, I'm telling you. Why? Because of the power of equity. When you give people a chance to maximize their potential, I share this with my customers a lot. There can be economic benefits, man. Look with Jackie Robinson and Branch Rickey, who put his life on the line for Jackie Robinson. And look what happened. So I'm trying to say, as a country, there's some benefits, man. It's not just when we stop all this madness and stop looking at people and give people chances and opportunities. Stop all this just looking at people a certain way and thinking it's amazing the benefits. Now, I'm going way off the course because that's not what I meant to talk about today. But I thought I would add it because I talk about it a lot with my work. You know what I mean? We want people literally to be looked at, you know what I mean, for their possibilities, not where they were born and who they were born with. So I just wanted to say that, this yesterday, I got off track. I'm sorry. Let me reel myself back in. Yesterday, I was in tears in DC driving home. I was for my daughter, time with my daughter, because I can't think of the number of times I've told my boys, my daughter, be safe, be careful. If this happens, my son had a situation when he was in college. I'm so glad he listened to his dad because it happened. And I had to say, there we go. I had to tell him, and he did exactly what his daddy told him. And I'm so grateful to God that he did, because it didn't turn into anything. And he had good friends there who looked out for him. And so I want that to end. I'm like Dr. Martin Luther King. I want one day my kids can walk out the door. I ain't got to worry about anything. And I hope and pray in my lifetime that could be the case. But we'll never get there if people continue to show hate, continue to show division, superiority, inferiority, and, denial of assimilation into the workplace and culture and opportunities. we're not going to get there. And so all of us that had that moment, and I'm happy for you. For those of you who don't understand, just understand. Just rejoice with those who rejoice. Yesterday was huge, and those of you who are just jumping on again, we're getting all these renovations done in my home. We're gonna have this smart home. I'll be able to say cook dinner and it'll cook. I'm just kidding. But everything is so automated. This is gonna be crazy. So I had to come into my daughter's room to do this LinkedIn Live. I just didn't want the day to end without doing some kind of recognition of what took place yesterday. And for that beautiful little girl, that's his daughter. I wish I could just come and scoop you up and give you the biggest hug. She's the cutest. You see her daughter, she's the cutest little thing. But guess what? That cute little baby girl, daddy is not going to see her children, her grandchildren. He's not going to walk her down the aisle. He's not going to see her graduate from elementary school, middle school, high school. He's not going to be there when she goes to her prom. These are the things I think about, man. When we think about this stuff, it's not just one person. It's not. I heard his brother speak yesterday. Their hearts, man. It's not. We don't realize it's not just one person. All the people that are impacted by that decision. And it's called dehumanizing. Let's humanize and stop the dehumanizing so that we can finally live in a country that's the land of the free and the home of the brave. We got a long way to go till we get to that point. Thank you all so much. I hope this information was helpful. And you know, I just simply I am who I am. You know, some people like me, some don't. I'm not trying to win a popularity contest. I'm just trying to make my life count. And I have, you see, been doing it for 20 something years. That's who I am. So yeah, come on, man. That's just, and you know what, Mark, I get you. Because the reality is, I hope that we don't even have situations like this. I hope we don't have situations like this. I hope, Mark, that it just eliminates and goes away and fades away. And, you know, so we can, like you said, we can stop having these moments of euphoria over something that we should have had done for us many, many years ago. Thank you all. Take care. Have a good evening.